A single human soldier, Captain Elias Ward, stands alone before the Galactic High Council. He is wounded, tired, and still wearing his damaged armor. The galaxy knows him as the human who held the line, the soldier who saved 12 species. The council announces his reward will be greater than land, gold, or command. The room goes silent when they reveal he is to receive the AlienPrincess herself as his reward. Elias believes it is a joke. The alien nobles are angry. The princess watches him, calm, curious, and unreadable. The hook ends with Elias realizing the reward is not a gift, but a test. Flashback to the galaxy-wide war. Humanity was the weakest and newest species. Other species used humans as frontline troops, disposable soldiers. Elias leads a human battalion during a final lost battle. Against orders, he refuses to retreat. Humans hold the line for 7 days, saving billions. Most of them die. Elias survives. Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council had never been this silent. Thousands of alien leaders sat on floating platforms made of crystal and light. Some were tall and thin, others wide and heavy. Some had eyes like fire, others had none at all. Every species that mattered in the galaxy was present. At the very center of the hall stood a single human. Captain Elias Ward. He was still wearing his combat armor. It was scratched, burned, and cracked in many places. Dark marks showed where alien weapons had struck him. His left arm was wrapped in a simple medical brace, and dried blood stained his glove. He did not kneel. He did not bow. He simply stood there, straight and silent, his tired eyes looking forward. Many of the aliens watching him felt uneasy. Humans were not supposed to stand here. They were the newest species in the galaxy, weak, few in number. Their ships were basic. Their weapons were old by galactic standards. Yet this human stood in the most powerful room in existence. Because the war was over. And because he had survived. A deep voice echoed through the hall, amplified by unseen technology. Captain Elias Ward of Earth. The voice belonged to the High Speaker, an ancient being whose species had ruled parts of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. You stand before this council as a representative of humanity. Elias did not respond. He had been ordered not to speak unless asked. The High Speaker continued. You were given a command no species believed you could fulfill. You were ordered to hold the Karen Passage. A wave of quiet movement spread through the hall. The Karen Passage was a narrow space corridor. If it fell, 12 inhabited systems would be wiped out within days. Everyone knew that battle. Everyone knew it was unwinnable. You were outnumbered, the High Speaker said, outgunned, surrounded. Images appeared in the air above the hall. Broken human ships, explosions, endless waves of enemy vessels. You were ordered to delay the enemy for 6 hours. Another pause. You held for 7 days. The silence became heavier. Elias remembered those days clearly. The screams over the comms. The smell of burned metal. The sound of human voices slowly disappearing, one by one. He remembered giving orders he knew would kill people. He remembered staying. You lost 93% of your forces, the High Speaker said, yet you did not retreat. The images changed, enemy ships destroyed, retreating, the passage saved. Because of your actions, the voice continued, 12 species still exist today. Some aliens lowered their heads. Others looked away. Elias felt none of it, he only felt tired. The High Speaker raised one long limb. Therefore, the Galactic Council has agreed upon a reward. At that word, the hall stirred. Rewards usually meant land, technology, titles, or command. Elias expected nothing. A step forward, human. He took one step. Lights shifted, the temperature of the room changed slightly. This reward, the High Speaker said slowly, is not material. Elias frowned slightly. It is not military. The unease grew stronger. It is not symbolic. Several alien leaders began whispering. Elias felt something was wrong. The high speaker turned slightly, gesturing toward a raised platform hidden behind layers of light. "Bring her forward." The light parted, and the hall gasped. She stepped into view. The AlienPrincess. She was tall, almost Elias' height. Her skin shimmered like soft silver under the lights. Her eyes were a deep violet, calm and sharp at the same time. Long, flowing robes marked her status clearly. She belonged to the Aurelian star dynasty, one of the oldest royal bloodlines in the galaxy. Elias stiffened. This made no sense. The high speaker's voice echoed again. "Captain Elias Ward, for your service, sacrifice and unbreakable resolve, the Council has decided." A pause. "Your reward shall be Princess Celera of House Aurelian." The words hit the hall like a weapon. Shouts broke out instantly. "This is madness. A human. She is not an object. This breaks ancient law." Elias stood frozen. "Reward. Princess." He slowly turned his head, looking at the high speaker. "This is a mistake," Elias said, his voice rough from disuse. "I didn't ask for anything." The high speaker did not react. "This is not a gift," the voice replied. "It is a bond." Elias felt his stomach tighten. He glanced toward the princess. She did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She was studying him, truly looking at him, as if trying to understand what kind of creature could stand where he stood. The shouting grew louder. Several nobles openly threatened to leave the council. Others demanded punishment. Humans were supposed to be tools. Soldiers. Not equals. Certainly not worthy of royalty. Elias felt anger rise in his chest. "This is wrong," he said louder. "She doesn't belong to me." The high speaker turned its gaze back to him. "No," it said calmly. "She belongs to the galaxy, and so do you." The room fell silent again. Princess Celera finally spoke. Her voice was clear, controlled and strong. "Humans." Elias looked at her. "Why did you stay?" The question caught him off guard. "Why did you fight?" she continued, "when retreat was logical, when survival was possible?" Elias thought of his soldiers, of faces he would never forget. "Because if we ran," he said simply, "no one else could stop them." She held his gaze. "And you accepted death?" He nodded once. "Yes." Something changed in her eyes. The high speaker raised its limb again. "The princess has agreed to this union." The hall erupted. Elias turned sharply toward her. "You agreed?" She nodded slowly. "I wish to understand the species that does not abandon its dead." Elias felt the weight of the galaxy press down on him. This was not a reward. This was a cage. A test. A weapon pointed directly at humanity. The high speaker spoke the final words. From this moment forward, the actions of this human will reflect upon his entire species. Elias understood. One mistake and humanity would be erased politically, or worse. He looked at the princess again. She stood beside him now. Not above. Not below. Equal. And for the first time since the war ended, Elias felt fear. Not for himself, but for Earth, for humanity, for what this reward truly meant. As the lights of the grand hall dimmed, one truth became clear across the galaxy. The most dangerous human alive had just been given something far more powerful than any weapon. And the galaxy would soon learn whether that was a mistake. The transport ship moved silently through space. Its hull was white and gold, marked with the symbols of the Aurelian star dynasty. Inside, everything was quiet, too quiet. Captain Elias Ward stood near the viewing window, his hands behind his back. Stars passed slowly outside, distant and cold. His armor had finally been removed, replaced with simple dark clothing provided by the royal guards. It felt wrong. He had worn armor for so long that without it, he felt exposed. Across the chamber, Princess Sailira sat calmly, her posture perfect. 2 royal guards stood near the door, alert and silent. Neither Elias nor Sailira spoke. They had been traveling like this for hours. Finally, Elias broke the silence. "I want to be clear," he said, his voice low. "I don't see you as a reward." Sailira turned her head toward him. "I know," she replied, "that is why I accepted." He frowned slightly but said nothing. She studied him for a moment. "You are uncomfortable with power," she said. "I don't trust it," Elias answered. That made her pause. Most beings in the galaxy chased power their entire lives. Humans, she was learning, were different. The ship entered hyperspace, light stretching into long lines. Sailira folded her hands in her lap. "Many in the council believe you will fail," she said calmly. "They expect you to make a mistake." Elias let out a slow breath. "Then they don't know humans." When they arrived at the Aurelian capital world, Elias understood why the galaxy feared this species. The planet glowed like a living jewel. Massive towers rose from floating landmasses. Energy shields shimmered in the sky. Thousands of ships orbited the world in perfect formation. This was power, and none of it belonged to him. As they descended, Elias noticed the way people stared. Some with anger, some with fear, some with open hatred. A human walking beside the princess was unthinkable. The moment they stepped onto the landing platform, voices erupted. "This is an insult. He is a killer. She deserves better." Royal guards formed a wall around them. Elias did not react. He had heard worse on the battlefield. Inside the palace, the air was cool and quiet. The walls were covered in living symbols that shifted slowly, telling stories of ancient victories and long-dead rulers. "This is where I was raised," Sailira said as they walked. "Every step here has rules." Elias nodded. "Looks heavy." She looked at him, surprised. "That is a human word," she said. "Heavy." "It fits," he replied. They stopped before a large chamber. "This will be your quarters," she said. "Separate from mine, that was my condition." Elias looked at her. "Thank you." She tilted her head slightly. "You thank people often," she observed. "People earn it," he said. Again, something shifted in her expression. The first attack came 3 days later. It happened during a formal gathering, filled with nobles and council observers. Elias stood at the edge of the room, uncomfortable in formal clothing, watching everything. He noticed it before anyone else. A guard moved out of position. Too smooth. Too calm. Elias' hand tightened. "Princess," he said quietly. She turned. That was when the explosion hit. Energy fire tore through the hall. Screams filled the air, nobles scattered. The false guard lunged straight for Sailira. Elias moved without thinking. He stepped between them. The blade went through his side. Pain exploded through his body. But the assassin never reached her. Elias grabbed the attacker, slammed him into the ground and broke his arm with a sharp twist. More attackers emerged, firing wildly. Elias pulled Sailira behind a pillar. "Stay down," he ordered. "I am not helpless," she replied. "I know," he said, "but let me do this." He stood up. Alone. No armor. No shield. Just a human. He used the pillar timing and pure instinct. He took hits. He kept moving. When his weapon failed, he used his hands. When his hands failed, he used his body. By the time royal forces arrived, the attackers were dead or unconscious. Elias collapsed to one knee. Blood pooled beneath him. Sailira rushed to his side. "Why?" she demanded, gripping his shoulder. "Why would you take the blade meant for me?" He looked up at her, breathing hard. "Because," he said, "that's what soldiers do." Medical teams arrived quickly. As Elias was carried away, Sailira stood in the ruined hall, shaking. For the first time in her life, someone had bled for her without orders. Without expectation. The investigation was swift. The attackers belonged to a rival faction that wanted humanity blamed. Evidence was clear. The truth spread quickly. Across the galaxy, something changed. Humans were no longer seen as reckless tools. They were protectors. Sailira visited Elias daily as he recovered. She asked questions about Earth, about families, about fallen soldiers. Elias answered honestly. He spoke of names, not numbers. Of memories, not victories. She listened and learned. One day, as he prepared to leave the medical chamber, Sailira spoke. "The council will ask what you want," she said. "They expect power." Elias shook his head. "I want something else." The Galactic Council gathered once more. Elias stood before them again. This time he was steady. The High Speaker addressed him. "You have proven yourself, name your reward." The hall was silent. Elias took a breath. "Equal status for humanity," he said. "No more expendable roles, no more silent sacrifices." Murmurs spread. "And protection," he continued, "for weaker species. No one gets left behind." The High Speaker studied him. "You refuse land, titles, authority." Elias nodded. "I don't need them." The High Speaker turned to the princess. "And you?" Sailira stepped forward. "I choose to stand beside him," she said clearly. "Not as a reward, not as property, but by my own will." Shock rippled through the council. The decision was final. Humanity was recognized. The union was voluntary. The galaxy had no answer for that. As Elias and Sailira stood together, one truth settled across the stars. Humans were not dangerous because they conquered. They were dangerous because of who they chose to protect. And the galaxy would never forget it.